All right, this is a big deal. I'm excited to be here with two super special guests. And really, this is an extension of our SMS, our big panel that we had during the Sustainable Merch Summit. So the top questions and some of the feedback that we got, it was a hit first of all, but there are always like little conversations that follow afterwards. So at the Sustainable Merch Summit a couple months ago, one of the big conversations centered around certification and some of that transparency in our print, promo, and apparel industries. And who better than these two amazing humans? First, Sara Osorio, which shoot you, if I get this right, you're the manager of EHS and sustainability at Printing United Alliance.
Yes, correct.
We
Thank you for having me,
Did I get
Jay.
it right? Okay, cool. I was like, I better check on my check up on what is it? And I keep thinking Zoom, but it's LinkedIn. Sorry, I had a blank there. But yes, and Sarah, so glad you're back and you're here and you can tell us more about health and safety and compliance and sustainability and strategy and some of the things that we seem to often trip over here in the print, promo, and apparel industries. And of course, my friend, Cassie Green, who I've known for a long time. Cassie's the content director. I like to think of you as the queen of content, but we'll go with content director at Apparelist, which is also one of the main pubs, main arms, main distribution points for Printing United Alliance. And you work with helping people with apparel and the decoration industry, navigating the trends and the technology. And you are a key component, and we're one of our aces because you helped guide this very panel. So Cassie's here. Sarah's here. Am I the luckiest guy? Yes, I am. How are you, ladies?
Oh my gosh, Jay, I think I'm just going to take you around with me to introduce me for
I'll
various
just be your
things. That
hype
was
guy. I can
incredibly
do that.
kind.
Well, it's all true. So I can be kind and true. Those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive. So, but it's meaningful to me to be able to go a little deeper. I know in a panel, right, when we have these panel discussions, and we talk about this, Cassie, when you have, oh, how am I going to go only 20 minutes with three people and I get three or four questions? That's never enough time,
No, never. And
right?
everybody thinks that 20 minutes or even 30 minutes sounds like forever. It's not.
It goes by like that, right? When you're in it,
Yes.
it's like, where did the time go? We're done. I don't even have another follow-up question. But we do have more or less on tap the same kind of three questions that we chatted about a little bit. So, but I do want to get both your perspectives. And if there's a cat in the background, we'll get that perspective too. That's totally cool. You don't be surprised if you get my dog's perspective here in a minute. But um, certification, right? Certifications, we hear these buzzwords, we think about what actually matters, which one matter. Some kind of start to feel like marketing and feel like spin more than I don't know. What Cassie, you led this group. Was is that a fair? Am I feeling the same things you're feeling with certifications?
Yeah, and I think that's why we ultimately landed on this being one of our topics at the Sustainable Merch Summit this year, because we're seeing sort of there was this huge push, right, of like this certification, and this language, let's blow it up, this marketing language around sustainability, and this word, and we're going to put a green leaf on
Mm-hmm.
everything, and all of this conversation. And then all of a sudden, people started asking for transparency and proof, and there wasn't a lot of it, and that
Mm-hmm.
it irks me to say that. And so I think when we start talking about certifications is when we really start talking about proof. And in
Right.
order to earn some of these reputable certifications, you do have to, as a company, jump through some hoops, right? That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why we wanted to bring some attention to this, because now we're not just looking at marketing language, we're looking at real action that people in the printing industry specifically and the promo industry are doing to prove to their customers and ultimately the end user that yes, we have these sustainability claims, but they're no longer just claims. They're backed up by data, they're backed up by actions we're taking. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
that's really important to discuss. The other reason we really brought this to the summit is because on that same topic, it can feel really overwhelming. So, me
Oh
as a
yeah.
consumer, when I go online and I look at a company and they're like, we're OEKO-TEX certified this, and this, I'm like, great, but I don't actually know what that means, right?
Right.
And so now there's this other layer of
Right.
definition and transparency we need to bring. And that's a
I
lot of what
know.
got this conversation started.
It's so great. And my twisted brain always thinks it's not like I'm going to try to eat these buttons. So do I really care what chemicals? But at the same time, we know that, you do have to have these full disclosure documents and safety and oh, it's a
Yeah.
lot. And so thank God we have people like Sara because you can help us. Now, Sara, I'm not going to put you on the spot and push you up and put you on this huge pedestal of the expert in all of these because there's way too many of them and that would be ridiculous and you would
Yeah.
hate me forever. But here are a few that I hear about, and then maybe you can dive in on any of them if you want to talk about like, but before I do that, I just gotta say, why as marketers do we always mess it up? Like marketers mess it up, right? Like they get a hold of this and like, oh, let's spin it this way. We'll tell everybody how eco-friendly we are or something. And it's like it's annoying because I'm in marketing and I've probably been guilty of that. So I'll own it. But I hear a lot, Sara, about and I think attendees of the Sustainable Work Summit were clearly keenly looking for clarity around the certifications. And one of the things we touched on was proof over promises. So it's easy to make the promise or the claim, like Cassie said, but proof. Like some of these are pretty drawn out and complicated. But I hear a lot about GOTS, GOTS. I hear a lot about, again, forgive me, Cassie and I say it probably differently, but EcoTex or OEKO-TEX, OEKO-TEX. And I've heard about them for a long time because I was engaged with projects with Epson and there was a lot of ink certifications and testing there. But I also hear about SGP, I hear about B Corp, and I hear about EcoVadis. Those seem to be the ones that are on my horizon, just being here, being involved in our industry. Did I leave anybody out, Sara, that you think we should add, first of all, that's like is it not that I want to overcomplicate this, but is there
Yeah.
somebody else we should bring up?
I was gonna say, if you want to ask who you left out, there's a long list that I can give you. But I think the ones that you mentioned are probably the main ones. The only other one that maybe I would add is ISO. ISO stands for International. Um, I forget that what the S stands for, but ISO. They are another main one, and they have certifications not just on sustainability, but also on safety,
Oh,
even on
right,
like
right.
color management. So they do certifications for lots of things. But for the ones that you mentioned, something that I always like to bring up is that the certifications are all very different. There's so many of them in scope and what they focus on. So, for example, certifications like GOTS, like OEKO-TEX, however you say it,
We're going to
these
need
are
a
very,
lesson from those folks.
yeah,
Cassie,
we're
will you
gonna
call
need you.
them up and give us what is it? And now
I'm
it's
not a big fan of these.
Hohenstein or Hohenstein or who is the parent? It's like we can't even say their name.
I'm not a fan of all these acronyms and all these weird names in sustainability, but we just have to deal with it. But those types of certifications are more product specific. So they're talking about, something being organic or, responsibly sourced. Like they have a specific sort of
Okay.
title versus things like SGP, EcoVadis, B Corp are certifications that are more holistic and they look at your whole process. So, for example, SGP, B Corp, they look at how like your employee safety, your diversity, like your. There's a lot of there's more aspects to it than just like the environmental attributes. I think there's a beautiful thing in pursuing multiple certifications
Hmm.
depending on what you're covering, but again starting a little bit at once. It just really depends on what your customer is looking for and what type of certification you're looking to pursue.
Oh, that's well said. I think that's smart. More than one can apply. That's really good knowledge to drop. And I love the fact that you're able to separate. Some of them are specific to a process, and some of them are more of an umbrella approach to all things, a
Mm-hmm.
holistic approach, maybe like you said. That's great. So you deal primarily with many of them. Is there anything in your role that you see come up a lot? Anything in there that you might want to clarify, or is there anything that you get lots of questions as it relates in your role at Printing United Alliance? Is there something that everybody seems to talk about, ask about, et cetera?
So I think right now the big thing that we get a lot of questions on, and we're getting a lot more, especially with all the regulations coming on, are metrics. What metrics should you track? Because when you're looking at sustainability from an improvement standpoint,
Right.
you can't improve what you don't measure. So especially in a certification, you're going to have to track metrics. So it's really, how do we track metrics? What metrics should we track? I always try to tell people, kind of start with the basic stuff. So track your water, track your waste, track your recyclable materials, track your energy usage. So metrics are somewhere where we're getting a lot of questions. And I think that's one of the biggest areas where apparel decorators really have to focus on for multiple reasons.
Mm. Good, good. And you're hearing that also, Cassie. I hear you, see you nodding your head about
Yeah.
metrics, and from the apparel side of decorators, are they wondering like how much, I don't know, give me an example.
Yeah, I guess I kind of think of it as like you're tracking all of these other business metrics, right? Because that is just good business practice. So all of the decorators are out there tracking things like how many orders are coming in, what technologies are they using, how much are they pricing this or that job for, like all of these metrics. This is just one more area that you can add in. And when it feels overwhelming, look at it that way. Look at it from a business perspective. You're already doing these things to improve your business.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one of those things. And I really think by using a certification, as Sarah said, identifying which certification program's right for your business, and then using that as a guideline, instead of looking at it as something overwhelming, look at it as something that's just going to better your business. So, for example, in talking to one of the biggest screen printers in the US, he said they do a very intense sustainability certification that they have to renew once a year. And he mentioned that it is a heavy lift. It's something they have to really track using all of their metrics all throughout the year. It's not just this one time where they're renewing everything. However, they see a lot of good benefits from this, more than just doing the right thing, right? It's about where are they losing money potentially, and where can more sustainable practices actually help with that or get them more revenue. And so by approaching it as a business model rather than just like this thing that we have to all do, I think it really sort of changed the rhetoric in his mind. And I think that's kind of something we're trying to push forward in the apparel side specifically.
Well, yeah, and that came up during the conference, during our summit. What are we calling it these days? But it came out that if you were an operations person and you were nerding out on that, you would look for that intersection of where do these certifications help us reduce an expense at the same time, or where do these certifications help us with growth or sales at the same time? Like we'll get to that in one of the upcoming questions, but I really think that you have to look for those intersections and that crossover. And so many people that were on our panels, we directly asked them, they just said, at some point you just have to accept that this is what we stand for. This is going to be part of what we want to be known for. We believe in it, regardless of some windfall of client or cash or savings. So I'm always impressed with those kinds of folks. It's sometimes harder to take that stance, but my deep respect for those that do it, because it isn't easy. The easier way is to not do it, to not measure, to not worry about the metrics, to not have to file for all of these certifications, and just to kind of go with it. And maybe there was a day when we were slightly more naive and weren't focused on that, and those were some simpler times, but not the case today. So
no.
Well, I think you guys bring up a really good point, and just kind of to piggyback off of both of you, because when you look at companies in general, you have people in two fields. It's the people that implement sustainability because they believe in it and it's the right thing to do, and I'm in that field. But there's also people that approach sustainability from more of a business perspective, and that's equally good and equally valid. But it's as a company, you have to look at your priorities to look at then what certification you're going for. And regardless of whether you are looking at sustainability from that good thing to do versus business perspective, it is at the end of the day a business investment, and it should be treated as such. A lot of times sustainability and sustainability certifications are seen as this cost center, because going through the certification process costs money. Recertifying costs money. But implemented correctly, sustainability is going to lead to profit, is going to lead to cost savings. A good example of that, and maybe I've said this before in another one of our events, but I always use this really good example. This was a customer that is SGP certified, and they realized that one month, because they were tracking metrics, there was a huge spike in their water bill. And when they went back to look what happened, it turned out that the utilities company, made a mistake and overcharged them an insane amount.
Oh,
A lot of companies just put that through, through accounts payable that gets paid off. Nobody really looks into that, but because their environmental sustainability person was tracking that every month, they were able to catch that. That's a huge saving or a huge mistake caught. So it's just one example of how sustainability implemented correctly is not just about costs and investment. It's also about efficiency, about profit, about cost savings, about catching mistakes.
Yeah, no, that's wise. And I remember, I won't go too deep on this because I don't know the firsthand, but hearing it third party from Marshall Atkinson, who I trust. Marshall was talking to me about somebody that he worked with who more or less similar utility company. They were measuring everything, but what they also did was proactively go visit with that team at the utility company and say, how can we look at this? How can we solve for X and lower our bill, but at the same time use less of your resources? Like, is there a game plan? And they were able to figure it out and save both of them, energy. And so I think it's little stuff like that sometimes you have to just take the proactive step and ask, what if we could work on this together? Could we find somewhere to improve something that actually makes a difference? Something that's not just being responsible because I feel good, but it's also being responsible in the capital that we use and the resources that we use. So I'm a fan of both, just for the record, a little late to the party, but I'm trying to do the good thing. But I also see how businesses can really, step up their game and win more business, which kind of leads me to the next question, by the way. So when we think about printers or distributors or decorators or whatever you want to call them, they're all of our dysfunctional cousins in print, promo, and apparel. We're so related, and yet we pretend we're different. But buyers, I want to talk about, what does a buyer think about? Like, on your horizons? Maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't. But like, if we're all at the end of the day selling, either if it's B2B or B2C, either way, we're all consumers. Even if you're a business buying services from another business, you're still a consumer. But what do you think? Do any of these certifications matter to the buyer? Are you hearing anything like people actually seeking out? Like, I had a short conversation with the folks at Blue Sign, and they were saying in Europe, of course, it's starting to be a little bit more mainstream, not just because they care more or not just because they legislate more, but truly consumers have picked up on this and want to do more. Are either of you, Cassie, I'll go to you first. Are you seeing this? Are you hearing this? Is this happening?
I would say yes. Having just returned from a trip to Europe, the consumers there are way more aware, and they have a lot more, I don't want to say understanding of it, but they're exposed to it more. And you're right, Jay, you did point out there is more legislation in Europe. But that's typical of the printing industry across the whole. It's always going to start in Europe and then trickle down to North America, right? For any trend or any business practice. So I would say the consumer is very much in touch there, which means it's coming here. But we're already seeing that, and Sarah could probably speak to this more, but we already see a lot of that here. And I'm going to use myself as an example, and I don't know that that's a good example because I weigh heavily towards this, right? It's a personal thing for me. I'm obviously highly aware of all of these things, and I have a lot of personal things I do to practice better sustainability in my life. But when I'm purchasing, say, like the pair of jeans that I'm wearing today is OEKO-TEX certified. And that is a huge reason, among others, why I purchased them. And I like to know that the company that manufactured these cares enough about it to get the certification, right? And so that's something that's important to me because now I feel better about the product I'm wearing, but also the product that I am now putting out into the mainstream retail, right? Because at some point, hopefully never, these jeans might wear out and might become unusable. Well, now there's a better likelihood of them getting repurposed into something else or being used for another use, whatever. Right. And so it becomes in the corner of your mind something you just start to look for as a consumer. And I think as we really start to see Gen Z come into being a bigger buying group, just the awareness and the access to information that we have now. I mean, they can just scan something now and just do their own research and know if it's going to meet their personal ethics on sustainability or not. Like the access to information is crazy. And so to think that a consumer is not paying attention to this stuff now, I think is kind of misguided because they are paying attention. The end user is paying attention, maybe not in huge swaths yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I hear it. I see it. I've got kids that are in that, 20 to 30 range, and they do care. They do talk about it. You mentioned something about is that what that digital passport is, that little QR code, or sometimes on hang
Mhm.
tags or in other marketing material where you could scan something and find out fair labor practices or where this came from, or
Yeah.
did this really get shipped all the way from Sri Lanka, but yet they're calling it made in America? Or
Oh man, that could be a whole other like 3 different summits and podcasts.
Oh
But
yeah. Oh
digital
yeah.
okay,
passports are becoming
fair.
a big thing, right? Or like you see companies like
Mhm.
Trust Trace really getting heavily involved in this market. And again, I would love for Sarah to offer her insight on this. But yes, it is becoming more accessible
All right,
to
Sarah, what do
beyond.
you know? What are you seeing? What do you feel? Same question. What's the consumer starting to pick up on, I guess, is the short version of all that.
Yeah. So, well, Jay, you kind of started this question off talking about Europe, and when I think of Europe, I kind of think of trends that start there and eventually move here.
Hmm.
And I think that that's exactly what's going to happen. Cassie was just in Europe. I just came from South America, and I honestly think that where I was in South America and Colombia, even this is more on the packaging side, but even their packaging collection curbside and in public is a lot more advanced than what you would see here, which is not something that people would catch on. And I talk about packaging because packaging has been getting a lot of the attention for the past couple years. But that attention is quickly moving to apparel, like very quickly. So I think apparel decorators should kind of look at what's happening in packaging to look ahead at what the landscape for apparel is going to look like. Whether it's extended producer responsibility, whether it's the PFAS restrictions, that is not something that can be ignored. And if we're going to bring it back full circle to certifications, having a certification in place where you're tracking your metrics is going to help a lot if extended producer responsibility does make its way down the line. So really looking at those trends that are developing in the EU, the digital product passport, that's already pretty far along there. I would not be surprised if again in a couple years we start seeing states do it here. So looking at those European trends and then California, New York, that I think is really telling for what it's going to look like for apparel in a couple of years.
That's great insight, as much as it annoys me that Europe is going to lead on this, or California. Oh, California.
I
Anyway,
know.
that's just, I was born and raised in California, so I get to make fun of it. I'm a California refugee. I'll just say that. So, but you bring up so many great points, and every time you talk, I think of like 10 more questions, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to deviate. I'm going to stick to the script here. But one of the other things that came up in our Sustainable Merch Summit was this idea of clarity over claims and proof over promises, which we kind of just talked about. And I'm glad to know that the consumer is starting to like care more, tune in more, read more, be concerned and make a difference, because they get to vote with their dollars. And, all things being equal, they may choose something that is going to be made better, last longer, even if it's more expensive, because they are willing to make that, and then they see it as an investment, or they see it as they're avoiding a poor choice in their world, in their estimation. So let's talk about that for a second, if we could, like the buying decisions. Like how would my business create value now? Like if you were going, if I were going to hire you both, and let's say let's start with it. Let's start with apparel and promo. I know that might not be your total wheelhouse, Sarah, but you know enough. You're good. You're the pro. But if I'm in apparel and I'm in promo, like, and I'm getting ready, like I know I need to do something. What would your recommendations to be? Like, what certifications were going to actually help me and help my buyer? Is there one that you might suggest I start with? And it's okay if you don't agree. Whoops, I just hit the camera.
I'm gonna be a little biased, and
Go, Sarah, be biased. I want it. Let's hear the bias.
my recommendation is always going to be SGP. I think the Sustainable Green Printing Partnership truly is a certification that is made by printing for printing, and it sounds cliche, but it's true. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the big certifications, the ones with the big name like EcoVadis and B Corp, all of that, yeah, they have a big name, but they come with a big bandwidth of need in order to implement. And SGP understands that most printing companies are not huge. They don't have a dedicated EHS sustainability team. So SGP has done a really good job at bridging that gap. And I think that's a really good place to start if in the future you wanted to pursue something a little bit more challenging. But I just think that SGP, the way that it's structured, it's not product specific. It sets you up so that you constantly have to be improving and proving that you're improving. Because if there's one thing that I like to harp on with sustainability is that sustainability is about innovation. What is humanity if not about innovation and creativity? A a hundred years or so, we went through the Industrial Revolution. I think right now we're going through the Sustainable Revolution. It's the same concept. Things are changing, but for the better. And I think the people that embrace that, take it seriously, and really apply it to their business are going to position themselves way better for something that is not coming. It's here. Like it's definitely here.
Love that tie to innovation. I'm going to quote you on that for sure. That was great. That was really good. Sorry, I'm having a little fanboy moment over here. This is great. This was a great comment. I love SGP. Thank you for shouting that one out. And there's lots of good ones. That's not the only one. And your bias is your bias, and it's fair, and you have a reason, and you have real reason. So it's not just a bias. It's a informed decision. But what do you think, Cassie? Have you got anything? You got any certification or something customers actually recognize where you would coach me to a place to start?
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I'm just gonna sound like a broken record and like I'm just saying ditto, but ditto. Uh, and I think with what Sarah was saying with SGP, what I like the most is they're a resource, right? And I know a few shops that have worked with SGP and the people over there who have said, yes, they helped me understand this. Their people were there for me every time I had a question or needed something or whatever. And it is tailored specific to printers, and that is hugely important. I'll kind of equate it to trying to understand California's extended producer responsibility laws, like Sarah was talking about. They can feel really big, and a lot of these certifications do apply to really big companies, and that's where it can feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, this is really expensive. I don't think my small business that doesn't pull in huge amounts of revenue can handle something like this or whatever. And so I think that SGP provides that opportunity to not use the excuse of, oh, well, like OEKO-TEX doesn't make sense for my company. For several apparel decorators, most apparel decorators, it probably doesn't, right? And that's, again, goes back to evaluating what your business needs are, what your metrics are. And I think that SGP really comes through to help guide that conversation, because if you just don't know where to start, they can help you. And I've talked to a few people over there as well. Great people. They love to answer questions. It's what they're here for. It's what Sarah's here for, right? So it's like, it's just this one big cool thing that you have access to in the industry, so you don't have to feel like you're starting from complete scratch.
You muted, Jay.
I was waiting. It gets to be a lot. Thank you. The amount of information that comes out, can be overwhelming. And so I'm glad to get your opinions on this, and that you were both on the same page is no surprise to me. And it doesn't mean that there aren't, and I know you feel this way, other places to start that are worthy, etc. So I have to say this though, because it was such a great natural byproduct of both our time here today and from the Sustainable Merch Summit, which was, the the takeaways were common, meaning certification alone. This is one of the things I picked up on. And of course I did the digging and went back in and read every, chat and everybody's questions, but certification alone isn't the story. And so that maybe got you certain distance before, but now we have, like you guys have brought up at least 15 times, the measurement side, the metric side, the transparency side, and then the operational honesty to say, I don't know that I can do anything yet, except maybe rely on my third-party partners, my buyers that I buy product from. Like I'm a consumer, and if I own a shop today in promo or apparel and I do business with Sanmar, maybe Sanmar can help me, or SNS, or fill in the blank apparel decorator, and maybe your ink supplier. Look for ways that you may not be able to take on that whole certification piece yourself, right? But partner with people, and then to both of you, ask the questions. Like, get some time with Sara, get some time with SGP or any of the others. They're all here to help, and they all care about this, and they recognize that. And so I guess what I'm going to wrap up with, then, we can no longer use the excuse that, oh, I'm just a small time shop, or I'm just, I only sell less than $1 million a year, or fill in your number, and feel like this doesn't apply to me, because that's no longer the case, right?
Agreed. 100%
I agree
agreed.
100%.
All right, I got something right. 100%. Yes. All right. It was so much fun to hang out with you two and get more information about certifications. I know that the Printing United Alliance does a phenomenal job of providing additional resources. Would either of you or both of you like to mention anything? Where can we go to get more info? Where can we go to talk to you if that's what we want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I would just always like to let our members know that if they have any questions when it comes to environmental health, safety, and human resources, we here at the Government Affairs team are always a resource. So myself, my colleague Gary Jones, Adrian Harrison, we're always here to answer questions and help you with any of your compliance needs. And yeah, you can find all of our information on our website.
Awesome. Cassie, you guys do things at Apparelist where we can tune in, check up, listen in, learn. What have you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, so I always first and foremost direct members to printing.org so that they can directly connect with Sara, Gary, Adrian, like she mentioned, because those are going to be your top like avenues of access to really good information. If you are a non-member, which we should talk about, we can talk about that offline. Apparelist does offer a lot of coverage on this topic because, as I said, I'm a sustainability warrior. I'm not expecting everybody to be perfect, but I would love to take people along on the journey, which means we have lots of long form articles where we talk to more than just apparel decorators. We've interviewed people from Hohenstein to talk about this. We've interviewed people like Sara and Gary. We have interviewed people on the packaging side. I've interviewed people like Mark from Refried Apparel. So we try and take a really wide look at this and then kind of direct people to different topics. We'll do podcasts on this topic. If you have listened to the joint podcast that I co-host with Teresa Hagel at ASI, we talk about this frequently because she, as anybody who attended the summit knows, is also very passionate about this.
Definitely.
And so we even go the promo route, right? And so there's lots of coverage we offer here. My other thing is I really like connecting people. So if you have a question about the sustainability, you want to talk about certifications that are more specific, you're not sure where to start, please just reach out directly. And if we don't have the answer, we will find the answer for you. So.
If they don't know, they know the person that does know. So they'll connect you. I love that. Well, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you for taking extra time. We learned a little bit more about which certifications matter. We talked a little bit more about, whether you're a printer or a decorator or a promo peep. I like to frame it like this: promo peeps, print freaks, and apparel geeks. How about that? Or some version of that. But we talk about that responsibly. I'm making fun, but I'm not. And then at the end of the day, we're here to build businesses and make relationships. And so I'm so grateful for the time that you've both taken. And even though this is part of your role, I obviously know it's from the heart and you care. And so that's what makes it special and different. So you have two incredible voices. Thank you for sharing them here. It's why I get to do the let's talk about it, right? I didn't even make a reference to let's talk about it, but we did. We got to taco about it, and it was great. So thank you for helping us cut through the noise, staying grounded. and getting practical perspectives. You both bring just kind of a, you help demystify it. It's not as overwhelming. So, and I can say that from I learn each time we have these conversations. So grateful for that. So Sarah, thank you. Cassie, thank you. And until we see each other again at probably the Printing United Expo, I mean, who knows? That's coming around the corner. So we'll see you there, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Thanks, Jay.
All right,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.